Hi everybody, it's me, Squire Heath. Welcome to Premier Quest. This week on the show...
Penny, why not think about a career in engineering? Because, boy, we're going to need some wave machines. No, but seriously, Penny, Premier Quest is looking for a third host.
So, sit back and enjoy Premier Quest once again, solving climate change.
Premier Quest podcast, the only life advice podcast that focuses solely, for the purposes of this episode, on climate change and how it will affect your life. We've asked you, and you've replied. We've got 5 pieces of life advice requests from you folks. My name's Luke. I'm joined today by Richard in Auckland. Richard, tell us, what are you wearing? And of course, are you engaged?
Still engaged from last week, or the episode we recorded just before this one. So not lots changed in the 5 minutes that has passed here. And still wearing what I was wearing earlier, a nice, very expensive tuxedo. I only wear the Premier clothes to record the Premier podcast.
Yes, of course, I'm wearing a Fight Milk shirt, a piece of merchandise from the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which, Richard, by the way, I'm giving a firm recommendation to our listeners to check that out because it's very funny.
Oh, so last week we sort of delved into our imminent doom and destruction through climate change. Today we thought we'd take a more lighter note by trying to solve climate change and also solve problems that people are having in their lives at the same time with the same solutions.
Yeah, so the normal agony aunt style of things, of course, is which essentially what we do is people write in with a problem. We give them advice, but what we're doing now is we've come to the realization that climate change is real. I think those 4 facts Richard went over last episode really nailed it home for me. So what we've done, we've received questions that are not necessarily to do with climate change, but the future, it looks like climate change is going to be unavoidable, and so you're going to have to shape your behavior according to a new way of living.
That's exactly right. And why double handle everything? Let's try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So we've got some solutions here to climate change. Let's see if we can pivot these solutions in some way to also solve the problems that are causing havoc and destruction in your lives.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. This first one comes in from Penny, who I'd normally, of course, the fun gag of calling him Spenny, but I can't do that. This comes from Penny. Richard, how can I stop social smoking? It seems like a very serious question. You're laughing straight away.
My advice to Penny is, you got to do the wave. So wave energy works in wondrous ways. Recently, they developed an underwater hull attached to a float that seizes both vertical and horizontal wave movements. This savvy contraption can turn wave energy into energy.
Kinetic energy, you mean?
That is transferred via a cable to land. We're trying to get to the root of the problem here. We're not going to solve this with some easy fixes. I think the root of the problem is that, Penny, you got too much energy and you're trying to calm down with some social smoking. But why are you socially smoking? It's because you're in social situations where there is a need to smoke. So you may think that we're heading towards that you need to become a surfer here. I'm saying you need to become an engineer and join these naval bases where they're constructing devices to turn water energy into land energy.
You'll be too busy to smoke, Penny, but here's also some hard-hitting truths for you, Penny. You're probably smoking because you want less oxygen in your lungs. Well, boom, carbon dioxide levels are going through the roof in the atmosphere, and that, of course, includes the air around you. So there you go. Climate change is probably going to take out that need. Here's the second one, social situations that Richard mentioned. The weather's going to be so extreme in certain urban environments that the idea of popping out for a drink is, that is going to be gone. Well and truly. So, I mean, the social situations that force the habit of social smoking, I think they're going to be gone, Richard. What do you think?
Yeah, they're basically going to be lost. It's going to become full-on smoking as we're restricted to living indoors, close in proximity to each other.
That's exactly right. And tobacco thrives in temperate environments. And of course, those temperate environments are a luxury that we enjoy right now, but in climate change, growing tobacco is going to become increasingly difficult. And with a large reduction in agricultural land mass available and an increasing population, we're going to be forced to turn productive land into food production. So buying tobacco is going to be extremely difficult, extremely expensive. Penny, I think, keep social smoking because it's a luxury that's going to be gone in a couple of years, mate.
Can we sort of pivot this a little bit and try some fun solutions as well?
Yeah, sorry. I'm very aware that last episode we came off a little bit jovial when we were talking about climate change. So I've gone full Dr. Phil here. I'm sending these people to the ranch.
I've got two potential solutions for Penny here. One, just say terrible things to everybody, lose all your friends, and then you'll have no one to be social with. Therefore, stopping your social smoking. If that's not really in your wheelhouse, why not replace this crux with something else? So, Luke, what could Penny replace social smoking with, keeping in mind that she doesn't want to isolate all her friends and family?
Penny, why not think about a career in engineering? Because, boy, we're going to need some wave machines. No, but seriously, Penny, Premier Quest is looking for a third host. So, provided you haven't socially smoked your vocal cords into oblivion and we haven't been lost to the rising oceans, please get in touch.
Well, I think we've successfully solved another problem there.
There you go, Penny. All the best. Okay, this next one comes in from Sam. It works so well, I forgot about it. Is there any way to overcome my fear of the ocean?
Oh, and boy, do I have a solution to you, which means you're not going to have to double handle anything. The infrastructure's all there, the idea's all there, the plan's all there. You just need to get involved, Sam. So you need to overcome your fear of doing new things, move to Scotland, and join the world's largest floating wind farm.
What do you mean join it? Like become one of the windmills?
So they're I don't know. I hate to say it. Sam's also going to have to become an engineer and move to Scotland.
Welcome to Premier Quest podcast, folks. We're the number one engineer recruiting podcast in all of New Zealand. So come along, enjoy yourself, and get that inspiration you need to become an aquatic engineer.
Yeah, so the floating wind turbines interconnected with cables and anchored to the ocean floor will be the first in the UK waters. Combined, they are expected to generate enough power for 20,000 homes or 40,000 tiny homes. And there's going to be more projects underway in Norway, Portugal, the US, or Japan. So, Sam, if you don't want to become an engineer and actually build these things, why not get into diving? Because these things are connected to the bottom of the ocean. So this will be a great opportunity to pursue your dream of deep sea free soloing.
Such tenuous advice. A lot of times when people are afraid of the ocean, they're afraid of, the animals and things that are underneath, the fear of the unknown. And Sam, I can tell you this, that with rising carbon dioxide levels within the sea itself, much of the coral will die, much of the plankton will die. Sure, jellyfish life is doing extremely well in an acidic environment, but essentially the entire ecosystem will collapse. So what I'm saying to you, Sam, is that when you're an engineer, you're not going to have to worry about those pesky fish, because they'll all be dead.
Yeah, there'll be no sharks left to eat you. And now let's try some fun solutions. First, I'd like to try a semi-fun solution. I'm not sure if it's going to be as fun for you as it is for me, Luke, because I know you've got very particular tastes. But I would recommend that you listen to episode 1 and you jump on the idea of going into space and bringing back a lot of space with you and using that space to freeze all the water so that there are no more oceans.
Yes. So a very practical idea, Richard, and I'm giving you 8 out of 10.
And now, just sort of think about this. Is there anything else Sam could do to overcome his fear of water without waterboarding himself?
Well, what I would recommend Sam doesn't do is read recent climate change reports which detail the incredible sea level rise that is about to occur over the next 10 years. as both the Arctic and Antarctic melt.
No. You're missing what we're doing here, Luke. We're trying to combine solutions. We're not trying to find an isolated solution.
All right, that could become an engineer.
No. We've suggested that one. Why not go down to the local toy shop and buy some of those inflatable puffy things that you stick around your arms that'll keep you buoyant no matter the situation.
Moving into Lifeguard Zone with Lifeguard Luke, those things, Richard, are death traps. And the reason why is that they're actually not particularly well made, many of them made using questionable labour and in environments that don't look after their workers. And the thing is, if one slips off and then you go bob, you essentially bob down, you kind of drown yourself because your arm's up on the surface. You're fighting to keep ahead, but the water's pouring into your lungs. And I think that's the kind of thing that Sam is explicitly afraid of.
And us here at Premier Quest are against unethical labour when it comes to production. So if you're on board with this, head along to premierquest.com.
Technically, we're not being paid to make the merch.
And buy a picture of some children's floaties signed by Lifeguard Luke. And maybe looking at this picture of some children's floaties will keep you safe from the dangers of the ocean. Are you happy to do that?
I'm 100% happy to do that. Of course, I've been begging to release more signed Premier Quest art onto the store. At the moment, it's just the Puma print, but at time of release, it will be also the Water Wing Death Trap print, which will have a picture of a water wing superimposed over a melting iceberg, signed by myself.
That'll ease.
And initialed by Richard.
That'll ease anyone's fears of the ocean, won't it?
That's exactly right. So Sam, bugger all the rest of the advice we've given you. Just buy that. It's pretty cheap. It's actually cheaper than the Puma print because it's in black and white.
You couldn't even splash off for a colour printer, could you?
Well, it's things like colour printing that are killing the environment, isn't it, Richard?
So better yet, why don't we just email you a picture instead? No printing required.
It's actually more expensive.
Okay. All right, hit us. I think we've solved this problem. We're 2 for 2 at the moment. Come on, Luke, hit me with number 3.
How do I find the key to my bike lock? From Michael.
So, Michael, you need to get on your bike. You got places to be. You're a busy man. You got to get down to the grocery store, the petrol station, the hardware store. This is going to be a very busy trip. And when you go outside, rain coming down, rising global temperatures, the last thing you want to do is like, oh, where's my key gone? So luckily, there's some scientists out there and some engineers, maybe Penny and Sam are involved, who have come up with a new sort of concept to solve climate change that might just work for you. The results of climate change are chilling. Both you and I can agree on that, Luke. And
that's an awful pun.
And the world's melting glaciers are some of the most in-your-face indicators. Now, one savvy Himalayan outpost, and Penny and Sam, of course, after they get their engineering degrees, are fighting back with backyard glaciers the community has built by hand. A retired engineer from the village has helped spearhead a project that uses irrigation canals and a reserve to trap water that freezes during the winter. The artificial mini glacier, about half a mile long and less than 150 feet wide, melts into usable water for irrigating crops come spring. So the way I see this applies to you, Michael, is the key's probably lost somewhere in your house. So I suggest that you pump freezing cold water into your house and effectively freeze the insides like an ice cube. And then crank up those heaters, crank up those hair dryers, melt that ice, and have it sort of funneling out into some sort of sieve. And so once all that water's melted, that key will come washing out with the water out of your house and into the sieve, and you'll be able to get on your bike so you can ride around town doing your day-to-day chores.
Sometimes on this podcast, we come up with a solution that is so good that it's almost offensive for the other host to chip in. And I think I speak for all our listeners here, Richard, where I say 10 out of 10 there. It's incredibly practical advice. It's cost efficient. It's achievable. It's also quite funny. And that's really everything that Premier Quest is about. Premium prices for fantastic advice.
I'm a little concerned that leaving all these heaters and hair dryers on isn't exactly good for the environment. But as long as Michael...
Well, the damage is done. The damage is done.
Why not? Luke, do you have any other solutions? Do you have any other solutions for Michael to be able to unlock his bike, given that he's lost his key?
Well, as we know, the ocean is incredibly corrosive and it is rising. So I'm thinking just pop the bike down by the sea. And then I'm thinking over time the ocean level will rise. The incredible caustic power of the ocean will destroy probably the lock before the actual bike itself. So while this isn't going to give you instant results, what I say is buy another bike in the meantime. Wear it out. When it's basically done, I'm imagining your old bike, the lock's probably rusted off. What you do then, get in touch with an engineer who can help you get rid of a lot of the rust, like a Penny or Sam, and Bob's your uncle. You've got essentially a brand new version of your old bike.
Ding, ding, ding. Breaking news. I've just received a crucial fact that Michael is in fact an engineer. So now that he's been through the deep sea wind turbine internship, how can he use his engineering skills in this situation?
Well, you spoke of the mechanism turning wave energy into some form of usable kinetic energy that could, I assume, turn some kind of turbine. So what I'm thinking is we latch essentially some sort of bolt cutter to the turbine itself, so as the waves hit it, and we run it to the shore, and slowly it cranks up and it cuts the lock.
That's a solid idea.
I mean, arguably making that all that kind of thing, again, negative impact on the environment. You're going to use a lot of metal and probably distract engineers from developing the types of clean energy we need. But you've solved your problem.
Yep. So you've heard it here first, Michael. You got to do all these tasks today. So get on that flight from New Zealand to Scotland. Harness the power of wind energy. Snap off that bike lock. Fly all the way across the globe back home, using all that pollution in the planes at the same time, and then you'll be able to accomplish all of your tasks before dinner.
Richard, you're from Christchurch, New Zealand. Richard, is it necessary to actually have a bike lock anyway? Should Michael be replacing his bike lock after he's done this?
Yes, I think it is crucial. I think in this day and age, people are becoming more and more conscious of the dangers of climate change. And people are more aware of the dangers of driving vehicles and how bad they are for the environment. So there's going to be less and less grand theft auto in the future as people move towards stealing bikes more often because it's good for the environment.
Yeah, true, but bikes are not particularly great at getting through high volumes of water, and with the rising sea levels, is there anything you can do to a bike to make it aqua-friendly?
I would suggest that the rider of the bike put on some kids' floaties so he can float to the top of the ocean.
Of course, the image that was once black and white now, folks, after that revelation, is in colour, and you will also find a picture of the bike in question, because Michael did send an image through of the stuck lock, and the price has gone up.
Premier Quest, where you'll find the most premier prices on the planet. Look, do we have any other problems to solve? Because, boy, do I have a number of solutions.
Yes, we do. We've got two more. This one particularly relevant. The smell of chai makes me gag. How do I make my boss stop drinking it? That's from Lucy. So for all the listeners out there unfamiliar with chai, I believe it's some sort of blend of herbs and spices, perhaps from the Orient, Richard, that makes some sort of delectable coffee beverage. Have you ever had one of these chai lattes?
I have not. Can you sort of describe it to me using only adjectives?
Delicious. Warm. Sensual. Exotic. Cult classic.
So, rather than coming up with a unique solution, we're going to try to look at another solution for climate change and see if we can pivot that idea into solving this issue for Lucy. I believe Lucy being the name of this person.
You believe correct.
Okay, good. Lucy, have you considered harnessing the Earth's heat?
Is that to stop the boss from drinking chai or to stop the gag reflex?
We're going to see if we can get it to do both. Yeah, come on.
Ambitious.
Let's have a crack at this. So geothermal energy sounds daunting to you and me, Luke, but not to everyday people. It means harnessing the Earth's natural heat, the 5,500 degrees at the core's Earth, for our own needs. The outer 3 meters of the Earth's core stay at a nearly constant 10 to 16 degrees throughout the year, and the heat can be harnessed to warm buildings, water, and more. We can even convert it into electricity using geothermal power plants to create steam, which turns a turbine, which drives a generator to produce electricity. So we've got two problems here to try to solve, Luke. One is the boss drinking chai, and the second one's a gag reflex. Any ideas?
Yeah, I'm thinking, and we don't recommend this often, but I'm thinking recommending some sabotage here. And sabotage not of the boss, but of all of the ingredients, the production thereof, all of the ingredients that make up a chai latte. It's what I'm thinking is that we send in our engineers that we've trained from previous questions, Sam and Penny, to develop a series of pipes that link right down to the core or as far as we can get, that funnel heat up and essentially cook all of these plants into smithereens. I'm thinking there's vanilla in there, some sort of spices. We create some sort of web and we kill all of those crops, and therefore the boss isn't going to be able to buy that chai.
It's a bit of an extreme situation, and I've got a simpler one that only involves Lucy having to go and get an engineering degree. We're pivoting off your idea. I love the ideas of the pipes going into the earth to get the heat. but rather than the heat, I'm encouraging her to get these pipes and send up like a kind of spring of magma. And every time the boss isn't looking, throw all their chai-making equipment into the liquid hot magma, melting them. Now, they may replace their equipment 2 or 3 times, but after the 4th or 5th time, they may stop and realize, like, oh, maybe every time I try to drink chai, my stuff's disappearing. Maybe this reflects on me as a person and I need to change my ways.
This, Richard, and I don't know if you've stopped to think about it, is remarkably like a product that we developed in season 2 of the podcast, in which we created an extension of The Breach from the film Pacific Rim and put them in people's kitchens so they could throw in whatever they want. Are you trying to remarket an old idea?
Oh, but that was kind of making stuff disappear into polluting another universe. This is more just...
Oh, right.
Yeah, this is more of using polluting the magma in the earth.
Also, there's a real risk that if we use the kitchen breaches, if you're throwing all the ingredients to make chai lattes in there, I imagine that the kaiju develop a strong taste for chai lattes and then decide to come back through the breach, and then you got Pacific Rim 3, which after the second one, I'm not sure we need it.
Yeah, so Lucy, if you're thinking about throwing all the chai ingredients either from my idea or from Luke's idea into some sort of magma-filled pipe, that's going to go down to the center of the planet, awaken some prehistoric monsters that are going to get a taste for it, come to the surface, and suddenly you're going to have Starbucks-sized chai latte places specifically for giant monsters, and you will be gagging like crazy. So on the gagging part, Luke, is there anything we can do for her? Harnessing the power of the earth?
Right. Well, no, I can't think of anything straight away from the harnessing the earth thing, but last week or the week before when we talked hot sauce, of course our now sold out hot sauce, we talked about the idea of creating an artificial gullet or a secondary gullet within the human neck so that the food can, the chilies can go right down and you're not having to deal with the intense effects of eating raw chili. What I'm thinking is perhaps if she had a secondary gullet, would that cure the gagging?
No, because the secondary gullet would still be experiencing the same chai taste.
So she's gagging twice as hard.
Yeah, you just made the problem twice as bad, Luke.
Oh, God. I'd like to formally apologise, Lucy. But sometimes it's got to get worse before it gets better, and I've got faith in you, Richard, as our product design expert, to come up with a product that this Lucy can go into a hardware store, pick it up. What about a simple aerosol spray in which you spray for 15 to 30 seconds directly into your face? And it alleviates.
That's going to be pretty bad for your health. So I'm going to pivot that idea a little bit, Luke, and go back to what we're here to do, which is solve climate change. Now, as you and I know, the oceans are getting hotter, the fish are boiling. Lucy, I suggest you head down to the nearest ocean or sea, walk down there, and due to the rising temperatures of the ocean, you'll find some freshly cooked fish
Oh man, that's dark.
washing in to the beach. I suggest you take these fish back to the office and eat the fish during the day in the office, therefore countering the chai smell in the end. And henceforth, you will no longer get the gag reflex because the office smells like fish boiled from the Earth's core.
Another way to get rid of that, apparently, I've just been doing some research. Smell plays a key role. One way to destroy your sense of smell is to expose your nasal cavity to extreme heat. And as Richard has alluded to earlier, the core of the Earth is extremely hot. So, Lucy, if you can get down there, I'm not sure you can right now, but do as best you can and really breathe in as much as you can of that core. It's probably going to kill your nasal cavity's ability to sense the smell of chai, thus eliminating any need to gag.
And if you're thinking, how can anyone survive that trip? I recommend you go and watch the 2003 cult classic movie, The Core, where, spoilers alert, someone possibly survives a trip down to the core of the Earth.
I was really ready for you to bring up that film. I was wondering if you were going to do it, and you haven't disappointed, and that's why, Richard, today you are the Premier Quest cult classic host of the episode. So congratulations.
And that about wraps it up for us, I think.
Actually, there was one more question. And I do want to just quickly touch on it. And it comes in... Well, okay, here's the question. How do I buy puma prints from the United Kingdom? This was a comment on our second to most recent Instagram post, and it came in from a person called Portia, and her username is Not Like the Car. She's also a host of a very interesting new high-quality podcast called Dead Air, which they deal with all that kind of mystical conspiracy type things. It's worth a listen. It's from Wales. Richard, how does someone do that?
So, I'm glad you asked, Luke. So in our search for solutions to climate change, we've stumbled upon a lot of work that's been done in Iowa in the States around some key facts and potential solutions. And I'm hoping that some of the solutions that Iowa has come up with is going to be able to solve this problem. So I'm going to rattle through some of these solutions, Luke, and I just want a quick yes or no as to whether this is going to solve the problem of getting puma prints all across the oceans to United Kingdom.
Okay, hopefully this helps. Instagram user at Not Like the Car.
Iowa generate... Iowa generates over 36% of its electricity from wind power, ranking first in the nation. We should make our leadership role even stronger. Yay or no?
Yes.
So what are you thinking here? You go ahead to premierquest.com, buy a puma print. Luke and I head down to the local wind farm, build a little paper aeroplane, put the puma print in the paper aeroplane, throw it up, and the wind turbine pushes it across the ocean, catch some of those sweet air currents all the way to the United Kingdom.
Yes, but also I'm thinking if you do make the purchase of the puma print, Instagram user at Not Like the Car, what we will do is print out a picture of a windmill we believe to be from Iowa and include it in there. It will be unsigned and it will be in black and white. But it's the best we can do.
Or what we can alternatively do is possibly send us an email offline, and we might be able to organise a PDF version of the picture for you to print off at home and frame yourself.
What picture are you talking about here? The puma print or the Iowa windmill?
The puma print.
No, absolutely not. We're sending OG copies. I don't want to risk the value inherent in the intellectual property of that image to people that we barely know. Sure, they host a fantastic podcast called Dead Air, but we're not getting on board.
What about these pipes we've got running through the earth, pulling magma to the surface? Could we clear out those pipes for a day from the magma and just sort of throw it down the pipe and it comes out the other end in London?
Well, yes, we can. But the question here is, how do I buy permaprints from the UK? I think the only correct answer is go to www.premierquest.com, click on the ellipsis panel, the 3 lines on the side. That will take you to the option to click store. Click store. You'll go onto the store. There's all sorts of products. There's a print of water wings superimposed over a bike, superimposed over an iceberg. There's the Puma print. There's the actual Puma itself. Instagram user @notlikethecar. Go on, click the Puma print. Go through with the purchase, enter all your details, and we will go about sending it to you with that unsigned picture of an Iowa windmill.
Yeah, picture of Iowa windmill not included.
Why? Why did you decide you didn't want to do that?
Well, I don't know, but Luke, did you know that 195 countries have signed the 2015 Paris Agreement, agreeing to limit global warming and adapt to climate change?
Richard, I didn't even know there were that many countries in the first place. And that brings us to the end of today's episode, folks. If you liked it, please comment the word Richard when we put the post up on Instagram. And that way Richard knows, people know that he was the MVP today. Richard, anything from you?
If you like this episode, don't be afraid to jump on that social media and post the word Luke, just sort of letting us know that, Luke was the other MVP today. You can have 2 MVPs, Luke, and you're one of them.
Thank you so much, and good luck to Sam and Penny with your studies.
Yeah, Premier Quest will not be paying for your education. We've run into that problem in the past of promising to pay for stuff well beyond our means.
It's been a fantastic episode, though. We were, of course, always staunchly anti-education, and it's so great to see us come full circle now to paying full scholarships for these people to go to wave universities.
Or